Hi, everybody. My name is Michelle, and welcome to my knitting podcast. This is podcast number 5, and I'm an Australian knitter based in Brisbane or Gold Coast, Queensland. And I would like to share my thoughts around the West Knits knit along that I just completed. So, if you don't know what it is, and I'm sure if you're listening to a podcast, you've heard about the West Knits mystery knit along. Over a month of October, we were released a pattern a week and slowly created a shawl. So you can look up Stephen West and all the amazing shawls and designs that he's done. He's got a very graphic, colourful style, and it's a big thing in the knitting community. So this was my first year participating. It's my first year knitting. So come January, I will have been 12 months knitting so far. And so I knew in my calendar coming up that I would like to have a go at the West Knit shawl. One of the biggest things that I had reservations about doing was cost of yarn. As a beginning knitter, I've spent a lot of time playing with different kinds of yarn types. And I've sort of settled on that I am starting to move away from the cheap acrylic things while my technique is getting better, my understanding of what I'm doing is getting better, fit to my body is getting better as I make more and more projects. So I knew that I wanted to spend some money on yarn that was really great, but I just don't have a lot to spend. And in Australia, it's $30 a skein, and we've got 5 skeins. That's $150 to spend on something that I hadn't made a shawl yet. So this would be my first shawl. I hadn't participated in a Stephen West knit along, so I wasn't sure what was needed and required. So I kind of went into it with let's see if I can do this without spending over $100, but enjoy the experience at the same time. So that's what I did. So when it came out, because Stephen always puts out a video early on that is here are the colors that you need. So I watched that straight away, and it was really cool to see that we just needed contrasting color and then a pop. So I made the decision to use 100% Australian wool because that was what I knew I could get a hold of at a really good price at Bendigo Woolen Mills. And it would be my first project. No, that's a lie. I did my souffle out of them. So I knew that I liked the product, and I was keen to try different kinds of different ply of yarn from them. So that's what I did. And so based on the fact we needed 2 skeins, Bendigo Woolen Mills, when you get their balls, they're 200-gram balls. They're really big. And because we only needed 1 of each, it made the price really bring it right back down. And so I decided, and their colors they're solids. So you're not getting any variegation, hand-dyed, all that kind of cool stuff. So they do have styles like that, but I knew for what I wanted, I was going to use just their 4-ply luxury because it's nice and soft. And so I did. And then my pop of color, that was where I would splash out. And so I got a skein that I've been ironing off lots. It is just at my local yarn shop, which is Mean Mothers and Creations. Their link is down in the description below. And I got their pop of color. And I don't have... Oh, I do. Look at that. This was my pop of color. It was just the Peytons. I'm a real pinky purple kind of person. And so this is what the skein looks like wound up. Pinks, purples, lilac. There's some bleeding between the colors. So sometimes there's this like orangey color going on there too. But it was obviously, it's like a sock yarn type thing it's got some nylon in it, and the other one was all wool. So there was definitely a thickness and a slight texture difference between the yarns I chose, but I don't care. We're just going to go for it and enjoy the experience. So the colors I chose, I wear a lot in winter in the gray tones, and so I decided to go with those because I know that my pants will always be in the gray tones. And so I did Ghost and Slate, which this one runs a little bit bluey purple, which was perfect when you put together these with that skein. So I had some variegation, and I just thought it was really cool. And I had the 2 other colors. This is what was left over at the end. So I've got about 25 grams, and about 50. So my main color was the dark color. And on the first video that was released, he said which was going to be what. So he said that there would be texture in the light color. So make sure texture in the contrast color. So choose light one. So that was easy. And then the main color, and then my pop wasn't used on that first week. I've got a swatch attached to it because I was playing with what to do. That's just enough. Like I could do some color work out of that. So I've been playing with what to do there. So that's my leftovers. So here's the final product. Let me do a tail to tail. Everyone's seeing this right now. So we've got the big seatbelt strap going down here, and in person you can see the texture. Just obviously on the camera it's a bit different. And so then through, I didn't change anything, so I haven't changed the pattern, so I've done it just as is. I didn't want to change anything for my first experience. I wanted to keep it as written, pretty much. And there's some cool ideas, I get that, but I just decided that this is my first time and I was going to hold true to it. So what I wanted to do is, as a beginning person, I sort of wanted to go through some things I learned, some thoughts, because I know that some people have done it lots. And if you're thinking about putting it on your list to do next year, what I wanted to sort of share with you. So I've got a bit of a list, so I'm just going to tick off as I go through. So I've done leftover yarn. What did I think of doing the experience? I've been wearing this thing. It's been cool kind of in the mornings because we're obviously going into summer because it's been spring, and I love it. So I love the shape of it. I think that when I've as a kid worn a shawl, or maybe like I just felt like it kept slipping, shawls slip off because of that shape that it sort of has. I can put it on and walk around, and it's not front center. It's just across my back and just hanging over, keeping me warm. And I really love the shape of it. So I was really excited by that. I've got nothing to compare it to with other ones. I've never done a Stephen West pattern. This is my first time. So I love the big long shape of it. I also think that from what other people have been saying, it's not their style. And part of me, I'm like, I get that not all mystery knit-alongs are for everybody. But if you look at what he's already produced, surely you have some idea of what the mystery knit-along part's going to be. It kind of gets me that a lot of his designs are very graphic and bold and colourful, and you can subdue the colours and still get that. But when it comes out that there's stripes and other bits and pieces, it just shocked me the number of people that thought that that wasn't a potential to happen almost. If you look at all the previous designs, they can be quite like that, the majority. So for me, I knew what I was walking into in terms of what does he normally produce and would I be okay with that? And yes, so I had no issues around the finished product. I have no issues around anything along those lines. For some people, they are embrace your pace, and there was a lot of knitting. So I knew coming into this, because it was my first time, that I wanted as much off my needles as possible, or just packed it up, popped it away for 4 weeks and went, for the next 4 weeks, this is the thing I'm going to do. I'm going to learn lots. I'm going to try new things. I'm going to have that excitement of the whole process happen. And I was okay with that. So for some people, it's like, it's a lot of knitting. Yes. And you didn't get to knit on other things. Sure. But for me, that was the commitment that I went into this with. And so that first week, so the first clue, the big braided section, not the part down the bottom here, but this part, that was, it's a lot of knitting. It took me all week. I was like binding off on the morning of the clue. So for in Australia, our clue comes out on a Thursday night at about 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening. So I actually found that when it was time for the clue to come out, like as a mum, I was like, dinner is early, things are washed, I've had my shower, everyone else has had a shower, I've got everyone else sorted out, is the laundry on, and I've got all my jobs done, so that at 7 o'clock in the evening, or at 6, because we had daylight savings switch on during that time, I'm like sitting down, waiting for the pattern to release, watching for the video, ready with my knitting needles, ready to go. So I found that really cool. I didn't expect that kind of level of excitement for as each one drops to be there, but it totally was. And so I was quite surprised myself at the beginning when I'm just like, let's go. I hadn't expected to feel like that. So that was a really cool part of it. And it was sort of this idea around in mindset that if you have something to look forward to, it really helps the days and what you're doing have meaning, because you know that there's a reward at the end. And for me, it was Thursday night, it's going to drop and I'm ready to go. And so I sort of I really enjoyed that part of that mystery as well. I didn't do the part where people would read the pattern only to the step they were at and not go any further. I was like, I'll watch the video in a second, Stephen. I'll listen to the beginning, but I'm going straight to the end. I want to see what we're going to do this week. And so I would see the end. I'm like, ooh, nifty. Okay, come back. Now let's go about and doing it. And I did that for every single week. I instantly just skipped to the end and go, show me what we're looking like today, this week. And so have a look at it and then just get shocked because section 1 was kind of interesting. Section 2, I'm all good with. Section 3, when we're doing the seatbelts out the side, I'm like, this is unusual, but I trust the process. And by the end, it's lovely. So I really liked that mystery element to it. I did print my pattern, plus I watched the videos, plus I looked at the pattern online. So I did a lot. So I printed out the pattern each week, just the pieces that we needed, not the extra like cover page and stuff. And I've stapled them all together now as I've gone through, because I found that because it was my first time, I've never had a West Knits pattern before. So getting used to that style and the layout to make sure I didn't miss anything. I also, as I've got the pattern sort of sitting beside where I'm working, I have a Post-it note that's sort of, I think there's an old Post-it note still sitting in one of these weeks. I have a Post-it note that I just use on top of the line. And because we kept doing lots of repeat sections, I could move it down and then move it back. And often the Post-it note had like hash marks about how many times I had done the repeat and then come back. Sometimes the instruction was just writing, like I highlighted sections where it was, this bit here is the bit I need to keep track of where I'm increasing because I keep forgetting it. And obviously his style is very much just chuck an extra increase in there. No need to rip it back, which totally suited me. I wasn't really strict on my stitch counts. Close enough is good enough. This thing's a shawl. It's not like it's a sweater where it's fitting to your body. And even then, I'm still a bit loosey-goosey. Like, close enough is good enough. So I did print the pattern. Plus, I watched the video step by step. And then went ahead and did the bits that I needed to do and then watched the next bit. So I really liked that process. I did a lot of my knitting for this sitting at my computer, which is very comfortable. It's got 2 screens, so I can watch a TV show, then I'd pause the show, and then I'd listen to the instruction. And then sometimes I was too in my head counting, watching, so I couldn't watch a TV show, so I just had music playing. So I really engaged in the process and I loved it. So that first week, totally agree, lots of knitting, but I knew what I was in for. So I had cleared the deck in terms of getting ready for the knit along. So, and then every week after, I just got quicker and quicker. And it was just, I actually found that by the third week, third week, I had time up my sleeve. Like I would have finished it Tuesday night, which means I had Wednesday night to do whatever I wanted. So I was able to pull out another project that I had been okay with shelving for the month of October while I got the knit along done, and I was able to pull that out and knit on it. And it was quite unusual. I thought, I didn't expect to have time because, again, I've not done a previous one, whereas other people saying this was so much knitting, I didn't know. So it was like, this is my first and foremost commitment, and everything else after that sort of just goes to the wayside. Videos were amazing. The pattern's really easy to read. As far as I remember, my first 12 months of knitting, I could follow along. Like I'm not a silly duffer. I can follow things. I can count. I can use my stitch markers because I know that keeping track of counts is a thing that I struggle with. So I just use a lot of light bulb stitch markers. Every 10 somethings I would put it in, every 10 stitches of something while I'm making the long I cord, for example. I just used the resources around me that I've learned over the last year, and it was completely achievable and very comforting, and I didn't feel left out or unsure at any point in the process. Very supported and incredibly enjoyable. I learnt stacks. Remember, first shawl. So that whole you can make an I cord and then pick up from an I cord. Crazy. The whole we did garter ridges and then we also did increases, but not like German row short, it was done differently. They look really cool. I've done cables before, so that was unusual, but obviously the really cool feature of this is the whole I cords in the cables, these parts. That was really cool. Twisted rib was fine. I didn't get cranky about anything. I know a lot of people got shirty about the one side of our clue 2 was done with garter normal and the other side was done with purling. I think my purling side is possibly a smidgen looser, but like, I don't care. And if he says to purl, I'm like, okay. Yeah, I think there was a moment I'm like, ugh, purling. And then I'm like, okay, and move on. Because that was the whole point for this, is to, yes, I enjoy it. And then I'm like, whatever Stephen says goes, because I trust him and this is his design and he's not silly. So I just went with the flow. Last clue though, this one, I felt like I was for sure not going to reach the end properly, and I didn't think the number of stitches was with the number of like the length of my seatbelt strap was what it reminds me of, and I thought for sure there was going to be some dodginess going on, so I started to try and work it out, and then I'm like, you know what, Michelle, everything else you've done so far has been pretty much to stitch count. Like, I was impressing myself with how good I was at being able to not forget to do things. And so I'm like, just trust the process. And it worked. I don't know why I was so freaked out. So that was a learning for me. And like some of my joins, I was actually quite impressed with some of them. Some of them are a bit dodgy. And I'm like, well, if you're looking that closely, then good on you. Power to you for paying that much attention, because I just don't care enough to make it that perfect. So really enjoyed that. I told you about how I kept track of the pattern. Would I print it out again knowing that I was sitting at the computer doing it? Possibly not. I think I'm getting a bit better now. I'm doing a pattern at the moment where I'm a crochet pattern and I'm keeping track of what I'm doing in the PDF file itself, so highlighting things and ticking it off. But I still felt like, because we had to do something and then repeat, I felt like it was nice to hash mark and write things on there. So would I print it out again? Maybe, possibly. I'd say yes. It's not like it's expensive paper and it's just a toner printer, so I'd probably print it again. Because I have my phone, but when I'm knitting, I like it to be a large enough size, and I don't have an iPad, so it is what it is. All right. I love the shape. I totally want to now do more shawls with that whole coming up and around so that I feel like it sits over me, not like a triangle shawl. So I'm definitely like now pickier because I've enjoyed that style so much. I've spoken about the amount of knitting. If you are going to do this, you just commit to it, and it is what it is. Other people are embrace my pace and I'll get it done when I get it done. I've had a mystery knit along I did earlier this year, which was the As You Wish, the Princess Bride knit along with another scarf, a shawl. Mine was more scarf style. And with that, I fell behind. But it's whatever you go into, whatever your expectations of yourself are, that's what they are. Can you do this as a new knitter? 100%. You can make your own rules around what you do and don't do. You can just buy the pattern and do it along later. For me, it was that challenge aspect of, can I keep up? What is my commitment? And my weeks are very standard. There was a weekend where I went away for a girls' weekend and I just took my knitting with me. That was the week 3 where it was the seatbelt strap, and that was really easy to catch up on. So I didn't have any worries there. What I loved about the mystery knit along, I loved the amount of people doing content about it and they're following through was really interesting, which is kind of why I'm doing my review, sort of to capture my thoughts around, as a newer knitter, around the whole process. So I just think it is more supportive than a standard go to Ravelry, pick a pattern, start knitting it. Yes, it's more complicated because you've got lots of things going on, but I felt like with the video support and the community, it was really cruisy, like very achievable. I knit every night, a little bit in the morning, but I knit pretty much every evening for 2 to 3 hours. It is my chill. I can do it while I'm watching TV, etc. When I was doing this, I was very specifically not in different locations. Like when I sit down while I'm doing this, this is my commitment. And I just loved it. I love picking it up and showing people. I love taking photos and showing my friends because they couldn't handle. That's the funny thing. So as a knitter, I have no other knitters around me. Craft adjacent things, but not necessarily knitting. And I was showing them at breakfast one morning. We went out for a girls' breakfast. I'm like, look at this thing I'm doing. Isn't that amazing? Oh, that's amazing. What's it going to look like? I'm like, I don't know. And they're like, that's not okay. How are you doing something and you have no idea how it is going to end up? I'm just like, I just trust it. Like, whatever it is, I'll figure out an outfit that goes with it. I think that's part of my style too. My style is very graphic, very patterned and bright. So I'm looking forward to more because I am looking forward to more color because I went with a safe option because I wasn't sure how I'm going to use it. And true, I'm not really wearing it because it's not winter. We're not heading into winter. But having just come out of my first cooler months as a knitter, I know what I like and do like anymore. Sorry, I'm bumping the camera there, getting a bit. Will I do it again? 100%. Can't wait. I bought the snowflake shawl because I think that would be kind of a cool one to do as well. Similar kind of vibes. So I grabbed that pattern and I'm so happy I did it. I'm so happy that it exists as a point on the knitting calendar every year to have a go at. It totally suits my style. So I'm all in. Loved it. All right. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe if you'd like to see more knitting content. I have got lots of things that I've made and just haven't done videos. So this is part of my mindset is that the video needs to have great lighting. I need to be in the daytime. And somebody just recently, Taylor Wool Needles Hands, something like that is her podcast. And she just did a after dark. And I'm like, that sounds interesting. Clicked on it. And all it was is the fact she goes, my lights aren't set up. I've had a busy day. I'm just doing a podcast and it is what it is. And I love that mindset. So I'm like, I'm in. I can do after dark because that's the most time where I'm actually free. Anyway, so thanks for listening in today. And if you have any thoughts or questions around first time knitter, blah, 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 and doing an MKAL, drop them below and I will answer you back. All right, thanks. Bye.